In 1.6, we'll be looking at the commutative and associative properties. You'll recognize the commutative and associative properties and use the commutative and associative properties to simplify expressions. How can properties help you determine distances? The south line of the Atlanta subway leaves 5 points and heads for Garnet, 0.4 mile away. From Garnet, West End is 1.5 miles. The distance from 5 points to West End can be found by evaluating the expression 0.4 plus 1.5. Likewise, the distance from West End to 5 points can be found by evaluating the expression 1.5 plus 0.4. In the situation above, the distance from 5 points to West End is the same as the distance from West End to 5 points. This distance can be represented by the following equation. 0.4 plus 1.5 equals 1.5 plus 0.4. This is an example of the commutative property. The order in which you add or multiply numbers does not change their sum or product. For any numbers a and b, a plus b equals b plus a, and a times b equals b times a. For example, 5 plus 6 is the same as 6 plus 5, 3 plus 2 is the same as 2 times 3. An easy way to find the sum or product of numbers is to group or associate the numbers using the associative property. The way you group 3 or more numbers when adding or multiplying does not change their sum or product. For any numbers a, b, and c, a plus b plus c is the same as a plus b plus c, and a times b times c is the same as a times b times c. And then with numbers, 2 plus 4 plus 6, so 6 plus 6 is the same as 2 plus 4 plus 6, which is 10, so 2 plus 10 is 12. So they're both 12. And 3 times 5 is 15 times 4 is the same as 3 times 20. Yes, they both equal 60. When they ask us to use the commutative or associative properties to evaluate, we're looking for easy numbers to work with, and I like 2 times 5. So I'm going to reorder this as 2 times 5 times 8 times 7. And then I could use the associative property, and I'm going to put some parentheses in here. So 2 times 5 is 10, 8 times 7 is 56, and 10 times 56 is 560, no calculator required. Nice. We don't always have to use a calculator for arithmetic. Find the distance between Lakewood, Fort McPherson, and 5 points. Explain how the commutative property makes calculating the answer unnecessary if you take a peek at example 2 in the textbook. Okay, first we're going to grab the numbers off the map. So from Lakewood, Fort McPherson to Oakland City is 1.1 miles. That's a pretty short jump. Oakland City to West End is 1.5 miles. And West End to Garnet is another 1.5 miles. And Garnet to 5 points is 0.4 miles. So we're grabbing these numbers. Now looking at those numbers, it would be nice to add the 1.5 plus 1.5, so we could use the commutative property and rearrange those. We could then put some parentheses in using the associative property so we can see what we're going to add first. 1.1 plus 0.4 is 1.5, 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3, 1.5 plus 3 is 4.5. Now if we take a peek at example 2 from the textbook, it is the exact same numbers, just in a different order. So if we reverse the order, 1.1, 1.5, 1.54, we have the same thing. And we know that from the commutative property, the order in which numbers are added does not matter. So we're going to get 4.5, I should write the label, miles, either way you add it. Here's a nice summary of the properties we've gone over so far. The commutative property works for addition and multiplication. You're just switching order. The associative property is also true for addition and multiplication. We're just moving parentheses. The order is the same. Identity, for addition, we add 0. It doesn't change. And for multiplication, we multiply by 1, doesn't change the number. There's a 0 property for multiplication. We already used 0 for addition and the identity. So 0 property for multiplication is 0 times anything is 0. Distributive property, we're distributing to everything inside the parentheses. And substitution, we can replace things with equivalent things. Well, you've got to like one-word directions. We just get to simplify for example 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute. I'm going to take 8 times both the terms in the parentheses. So I have 8 times 2b plus 8 times 4, and then plus the 7b's along for the right. So 8 times 2b is 16b, plus 8 times 4 is 32, plus 7b. Now I'm going to use the commutative property and group my like terms together. So I have 16b plus 7b, and then 32 is not a like term, that's a constant. And I could use the associative property, I suppose, and group our coefficients even more. So 16 plus 7 is 23, b plus 32. They are not like terms, we can't combine them, we are done. Use the expression 3 times the sum of 3x and 2y added to 5 times the sum of x and 4y. They want us to first write an algebraic expression for the verbal expression. Sum is the answer when we add, so when it says 3 times the sum, that's a hint that we need these parentheses. So 3 times that whole sum of 3x plus 2y, added to, of course, means plus. 5 times, again, the sum, so parentheses, of x and 4y. We wrote it without the extra spacing there. Simplify the expression and indicate the properties used. Okay, we have parentheses, so the first thing we're going to want to do is distribute. So we're going to have 3 times 3x plus 3 times 2y plus 5 times x plus 5 times 4y. And we said that was distributive property, which I'm going to abbreviate because I am lazy that way. That's not a very good abbreviation. Okay, then I can multiply those. And all we did was do our multiplication, so we'd call that substitution. And now I want to put my likes together, so I'm going to group my x's and my y's. So that is going to be commutative property. I switched the order around. Okay, I said group, but I just reordering them. Now, because when we group, that's using parentheses, and that is the associative property. And then I can kind of undistribute. I could take out my x, so I'll have 9 plus 5x, and 6 plus 20y. So that's a different version of the distributive property. And then finally I can add 9 plus 5 is 14, and 6 plus 20 is 26. And that's just substitution. Now, x's and y's are not like terms. We cannot add them, so that is our final answer. The two properties we looked at were the commutative and associative properties. So for the commutative properties, we can move things around. For any numbers a and b, a plus b is the same as b plus a, or a times b is the same as b times a. And for associative property, we can change where the parentheses are in the same order.